Well, welcome to Age Friendly, and we have a great program for you today, and I'm sure that you're going to enjoy it because we're going to be talking about an issue that we really need to talk about in our community, and that's drugs. Rhonda Mackey, who is an outreach worker with the Thunder Bay District Health Unit, is my guest. My name, of course, is Rebecca Johnson, hosting the program. And Rhonda, when we talk about drugs, like people, particularly seniors, get really worried. I mean, oh my gosh, we got drugs and, people are whatever doing all these things. And we're going to get into the fact about needles on the ground a little bit later in the program. But what's happening? What's the drug scene in Thunder Bay right now?
Well, we've seen a real big shift from people injecting drugs to more smoking drugs. So crack cocaine is probably the #1 drug that we see on the streets right now.
So that is a big change from injections and things like that?
Yeah, so typically in the past, we might have given out anywhere between 800,000 to 1 million needles, and that has dropped significantly to about 500,000 needles. But our crack pipe distribution has gone up about 1,100%.
Could I ask you, is that going to do with vaping, or that's totally different?
Completely different.
Okay,
yeah.
so we won't go into that, but I just wanted to just clarify that for people. So with that, we know that the consumption sites are closing.
That's correct.
And that is a scary thing in a way. Some people will say that's a good thing, but there's a negative part of this as well, because at least people went to the consumption site to inject their drug. Now what's happening?
Well, unfortunately now there isn't a place where people can go and safely use their drug with someone watching to ensure that they don't overdose.
Right.
The safe consumption site has actually never had an overdose that turned to death ever in Thunder Bay. I don't believe ever anywhere in any of the consumption sites. So because they have the means there to help people if they do overdose.
Right. So we will see then, because it's not there, what do they do with their needles? What happens with that?
Well, there is places for them to properly dispose of them. One of the things that our program does is we do provide bins to clients, any type of bin. We have small, large. But now you might see a few more needles on the ground, maybe because there isn't people there. They aren't using inside, so they might be using outdoors. So you might potentially see more needles on the ground.
Right. Now, people will see needles in other places than around consumption sites.
Oh, yes.
Right.
Yes.
So if you were an older adult and you were out walking and you see a needle, and what do they look like? You have one with you.
Yeah, for sure. This is probably the most common needle
Right.
that we do give out. This is the 1 cc insulin syringe. So this would be probably the most common one that you would see on the ground.
So as a senior, I'm walking along, I see this and say, oh my goodness, I'm going to get AIDS, or I'm going to get HIV, or Hep C, or whatever.
Right.
That's not really what happens.
No, actually it's not. There's just a lot of fear around needles, which is really unfortunate. But HIV dies very quickly outside the body. Hepatitis C does need a much more viable source to contract anything. So it is actually quite safe to pick up the needles as long as you pick them up by the plunger end. If you had a water bottle, you could just put it into the water bottle. One of the things that we suggest is, bring the bottle to the needle, take the needle by the plunger end, which is the bottom end, and then just put it in, and then you could put it in any one of our outdoor bins. We have a number of them around the city.
You don't have to be thinking about, though, that makes it far more, I'm more comfortable with what you just said in regards to it. So if you're a senior, as I say, out walking and see them, just plunk it into whatever and go from there. You don't have to be thinking about, oh my goodness, if I pick it up, I'm going to get anything.
No, I absolutely.
And I'm reinforcing that because I think that's really important.
I think it's very important too. I think that there's a lot of fear around these things, and often you can also call our program. So Superior Points, if you find a needle on the ground and you don't have the means to pick it up at that point, and maybe you don't really feel comfortable, you can always call our program, and we do go and pick them up. So, but I do notice that a lot of people will call, and then the needle is precariously put maybe, with a broken beer bottle and maybe some other trash, and people are just very more upset about the needle, but there is usually trash around there as well. It's unsightly, and it does make people feel scared, but I really feel like as long as you pick it up, put it in the safe container, and put it away. There should be no problems.
Right. One of the things that you hear in the community is the fact that there's way too many needles. Like, why do we have to have so many needles? Some are not even used, they're just needles. So is there a reason that we have so many?
Well, one of the things, especially with our program that we tried to do with the Superior Points program, is we don't create any barriers for people. So I believe that a lot of times what you might see is that the people that maybe get some needles, but they aren't securely housed, so they really don't have anywhere to keep the needles. So it's not as easy as, you know, if we buy things that we need in our home and we are able to keep them in our home. People that are not able to have the home, and maybe they don't carry everything around, so sometimes they do get, you know, especially if people are in the struggling with substance use, you know, that might not be their first thought. You know, they have a lot of other things on their mind, and, you know, life gets a little bit chaotic.
And it's important to go out and reach out. One of the things that we don't do enough of in a lot of ways is educate ourselves about this. This is a good way to do it on our age-friendly program today. But what are the other ways that an older adult can learn a little bit so that they don't have that fear in whether it's needles or even about drugs?
Yeah, there's some actually really great resources out there. One of the podcasts that I really like to listen to is one called Addicts in the Dark, and it really gets you an idea of what is going through an addict's mind at that time. That's one thing. There's plenty of YouTube. I know that maybe isn't everybody's form of learning information, but you could always reach out to the Superior Points program and ask questions if you have questions. We love to chat with people. That's why we wanted to come here and chat with you. We really like to encourage people to learn a little bit more so they're not afraid.
And there is still a lot of drugs in our community, and that's not going to change overnight.
No, I don't think it will. My coworker often says, you know, people have been trying to change their experience since the caveman days, walking out and licking a toad, you know. So I don't think it's going to go anywhere. It hasn't gone anywhere. I don't think the war on drugs is working. So
no, but we have to continue to persevere.
Yes.
And no one really, I don't really think, maybe Rhonda, you can challenge me on this, but I don't think that people wake up one morning and say, I'm going to be a drug addict, for example.
Absolutely. I know I often make the reference that, you know, when I went to see my niece graduate her grade 8 graduation, not one of those little children went across the stage and said, this is what I wanted to be in life, but this is what does happen. And I truly believe that it's from trauma. It's from people experiencing trauma in their life, that they turn to something that they can use to help that feeling. And
we have enough services here in Thunder Bay that try to help and assist those individuals.
Absolutely, and but then there's a lot of negative and a lot of stigma still approach to it. I think that people feel like it's a moral, it's something moral, that people have a moral decay of some kind, but it's really not. I mean, people are suffering and they need our kindness and our help.
And that's so very important that we provide that in some context or another.
One of the things that I really like to think about in my day, on day-to-day work, is, you know, sometimes people don't even have one person that smiles at them or makes them feel good. So if I can just be out there and be kind and give people what they need, and with a smile on my face, that might be the only thing they get that day that is like a positive. So I think if we change our perspective and think, you know, we need to help people and not, you know, stigmatize them.
Right, and we need to do that. Let's talk about that further. Rhonda Mackey, my guest. Well, welcome back to Age Friendly. We're talking about the drug situation here in Thunder Bay. As a senior, how does it impact you, and what can you do to assist? Rhonda Mackey, outreach worker with the Thunder Bay District Health Unit, is our guest today. And one of the things that we need to do is, if somebody is having, you know, is involved in drugs, and all of a sudden they're on the floor and they're potential with an overdose, what do you do?
Well, I would suggest everybody having an naloxone kit. That's very important.
So what is a naloxone kit? I know about it, but there's a lot of seniors that don't have any idea in our community. What does that mean?
Okay, so what naloxone is a drug that helps to reverse an overdose from an opiate. So what it does is it gives us a window of opportunity. When naloxone is administered, it blocks the receptors for the opiate to go into that receptor of the brain, so it can give that person that chance to start breathing again. And the best part about naloxone is no matter what, you can't hurt anybody with it. It's a completely benign drug unless it's used on an opiate.
One of the things you mentioned, Rhonda, is that everybody should have a kit. So what you have a kit. So talk to us about what this kit really means and why we should all have one.
Okay, so it can help save somebody's life anywhere, and it's happened to me not even on work time. So I do strongly believe in having one with you, but a naloxone kit just looks like this. It's very easy to use. This is a nasal naloxone, which I highly recommend people using. It comes with 2 little naloxone sprays that you would just insert into the nostril. So if somebody is down, they're not breathing, or they have labored breathing, where that means their breath is not one every 3 to 5 minutes like our normal, the way we breathe every time, but something that's maybe once every 20 seconds, that would be considered labor breath. But so if somebody is down, not breathing, I would suggest giving them naloxone. Even if that person didn't go down from an overdose, you're not going to hurt them.
You know, when we're sitting here and talking about, older adults or whatever, who could be grandparents, and unfortunately, maybe their grandchild is over visiting, could be on drugs, we don't know.
Absolutely.
And that's what we're trying to get across here. As a grandparent, what do I do if my grandchild is in an overdose? That's why I'm trying to,
Yes.
tie this into the older adult and all the rest of it. Or it could be your child. It doesn't have to just be a grandchild, but it's really important. So how do I use this?
Okay.
Yeah.
So it is actually very easy, and it comes with instructions in it that are so easy to read.
All right.
Actually, even if you didn't read, you could look at
You
the
could
little
do it.
pictures and figure it out.
Okay.
Yeah. So if somebody is down, they stop breathing, absolutely the very first thing we want you to do is call 911, even before you give the naloxone, because you want help on the way as quickly as possible. So call 911, let them know what's happening. You have somebody down that is not breathing, and you need them to your location. Very easy to give naloxone, like I said. There's 2 in every kit. You just open them up very easily, and then you just take it out. It looks like so. You stick it into the nostril until the nostril hits your finger, and then you just depress, and it looks just like that.
And that's all.
That's it. And there's 2 in each one, and we often recommend to give both right off the hop.
So, and you say that it's not going to hurt me in any other way. So even if you give it, hopefully it would overcome an overdose.
Yes.
But if it didn't, it still is not going to hurt you, your heart or anything.
Absolutely. So
No.
if you don't know the reason that person has gone down, you're not doing anything except maybe wasting a little naloxone. That's
Right.
all. Yeah.
Now, this is important. So I should have a kit. How do I get one? I mean, where do I go to get one?
Yeah, for sure. So you can always call Superior Points. That's the program that's at the health unit that I
Right.
work for. We do deliver from Monday to Friday from 11 till 8. So even if you just called up and said, I would need a naloxone, we could come to your place and give you one, even give you a quick little tutorial on how to use it. You can also go to a pharmacy. Pharmacies can give you a naloxone kit as well. There's also a website called Naloxanon, and you can sign up. You don't give your name. It just will come to you as the resident of.
Right.
And actually on that website, you can even ask for a 15-minute consultation on how to use them. So they'll even call, you can even talk to somebody on the phone so they can show you how to use them.
Right. It's very, very easy. And to get one, it's very easy. It's something that, and you mentioned about calling you on the phone, you're going to deliver them. I just picked that up. I remembered you saying that.
Yeah.
So that's something you can do.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we love to get this information out there, and we really are super happy that people would want to have one in their home, because one of the things that we've heard from paramedics is that a lot of times now when they do go to overdose calls, that somebody's already administered naloxone before they even get there. So that's already helping.
And that's really important. Is it necessary or important for people to have this naloxone as quickly as they can get it if they're going into a
Absolutely.
situation?
So
Okay.
the moment that this, when somebody goes down, normally their breath is stopped, and when somebody isn't breathing,
Yeah.
you only have a few minutes before more things are going to go wrong.
Right.
So you want to get this as quickly as possible. Some of the signs and symptoms would be: 1, they're down, not breathing, very obvious. 2, fingertips and lips turn discolored, blue, off-colored, really quickly. So if you see that's another tall tale sign. Sometimes a really raspy, sort of gurgly, snory sound is another tall tale sign that you could potentially be dealing with an overdose. So if any one of those things are happening, you might want to consider giving naloxone.
And I think it's important that for people like older adults to be comfortable with some of this technology. It's not technology. It's more of a solution and all the rest of it. So how do we educate them enough? Is there some other way that we can educate people?
Yeah, well, we do presentations an awful lot.
Okay.
So if people wanted to get a hold of Superior Points and let us do a presentation, maybe to, if you're in a living situation where you would like a bunch of people maybe, or you can even just come down to the health unit, we can give you a very quick little tutorial on how to use it. That's where we could give you a kit as well. So, and I believe pharmacists will also give you a little tutorial. There's plenty online as well if you just wanted to look up naloxone training. There are so many online.
Right.
Yeah, so.
So for older adults, this is the opportunity to learn about this as well as to get the kit and really hopefully never use it.
Hopefully never have to use it, but at least have the knowledge if you did need to use it. Yeah.
Could you I'm just thinking, it's fine to have it in the home. One assumes you're not going to necessarily need it in the home. But what about carrying one in a car?
Yes, absolutely. We do suggest people carrying it in their car. Previously, a long time ago, they would say you have to keep it at normal, like room temperature. But they've done a number of studies on naloxone now, and they've raised the temperature, lowered the temperature, and it doesn't change the effectiveness of it. Unfortunately, in the winter, especially in Thunder Bay, things might freeze, but you would just need to thaw this like between 2 warm hands, maybe in the heater of your car. We often say sometimes people have heated seats, maybe even stick it under your leg while it's on the heated seat. It will take about a minute to thaw, but it's still going to be effective.
And you could save somebody's life, which is really what you're wanting to do.
Absolutely, that's right. And so, I've talked to a few people that say, oh, I always carry one when I go for my dog walk. I thought that was brilliant.
Oh, never thought about that.
You got your leash and you got your poop bags and grab your naloxone kit.
Right.
Yeah.
But you never know exactly what you're going to find when you're walking in a community. And
it could happen anywhere.
That's right.
We have seen it happen everywhere, and it's not just, in places where people think they might see an overdose. It could happen anywhere.
Yeah, and as an individual, you want to help somebody if you possibly can.
If you
That's
possibly
really
can.
important. Thank you for that, Rhonda. We're going to talk in our next segment about the drug fentanyl, which I know that many people hear a fair amount about. So stay tuned for that program. And the next segment, Rhonda Mackey from the health unit, my guest, and we're talking about the drug situation here in Thunder Bay. And sorry we have one, but we have one. Thank you. Well, welcome back to Age Friendly. We're talking about the drug situation here in Thunder Bay and how you as an older adult can maybe assist and trying to prevent some of the things that happen. So Rhonda Mackey is my guest, and Rhonda, we're going to talk about fentanyl. You hear about fentanyl all in the news and all the rest of it. I don't even know really what it looks like. So what does fentanyl look like?
Well, that's the thing. It can look like so many different things. Yeah, it doesn't really come in any specific form, and it can look different. It can be a different color. There is fentanyl patches. So you wouldn't really know it if you saw it.
But you mentioned to me when we were talking about the program, before the programs, that it could look even like baking powder.
Yeah, baking powder or baby powder, or yeah, it could look like anything. Yeah.
So, as an older adult, how would I know that there was fentanyl was around? I guess I would never know.
No. Yeah, you wouldn't know.
No.
Unfortunately, But there is a lot of fear again around fentanyl, and people feel that if you touch it, you might die, things like that. But that is not true. There's
Okay.
no truth to that. And there's a toxicologist that was working with a liquid fentanyl, and he broke it all over his hand. But he knew this, in that state of mind, this is a perfect time to write a paper.
Right.
So him and a colleague did write a paper. You can find it online about how it does not just soak into the skin, and that's not how it works. So
No.
you don't really have fear. If it was around every single space that we think of, like, I'm not sure, just anywhere, I think we would have a lot more people being injured from just touching it if that was the case.
Right,
Yeah,
right. People get themselves involved in using fentanyl, although that's not a drug that they would really want to use, I don't think.
I think sometimes now it is what they are used to because it has been put in the drug supply, so they are now, that is the drug that they need now, unfortunately.
All right.
Yeah.
And people get themselves into these situations not because they choose. We talked about that at the start of the program. But you can go to the doctor, break a leg, and go on some opioids for whatever to help you with pain, for example.
Absolutely.
And the next thing you know, you could be using fentanyl.
Yes.
And that's not what you wanted.
No, and that's what happens is people sometimes do get into a situation where they've hurt themselves and they've been given some sort of opiate for the pain, and then the pain pills wear off, and then they have to go to the street to find something, and sometimes that will be fentanyl.
Is there large usage of that you know about here in Thunder Bay?
Yes.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah. There is. Yeah. The health unit, we ran a study called TRACKS where we interviewed 200 injection drug users last year this time. And I would say a good portion of those people that we interviewed, yes, are using fentanyl.
I know we're talking about fentanyl, but could you just tell me, in regards to other drugs, like, the hard drugs, I call them, of heroin and et cetera, is that being used as well here?
I don't believe we're seeing as much heroin anymore, only because fentanyl is here.
Right. All right. So we know that could happen, but somewhere along the line, as I said, it could be my son, for example, that all of a sudden is using this, and because he broke his leg, and it had nothing to do with anything, it's just the way it evolved. So somewhere you've got to have a little bit of kindness. I mean, I don't want because that occurred to my son, I don't want that happening to them.
I think a lot of times people, if it hasn't touched their family, sometimes they feel like, that doesn't have anything to do with me. But unfortunately, it is a community-wide problem.
Right.
It's not even just our community, it's a worldwide problem. It's not just Canada or the US, it's worldwide. And there's so many people struggling with this, just like people struggle with diabetes or cancer or any of those diseases.
Right.
And we don't have the same stigma that is attached to something like that. So I do believe kindness goes a really long way. Yeah, and connection.
Yeah, one of the things I wanted to just talk about the fact is that I'm an older adult, I'm taking my dog out and all the rest of it, I might see the needles, but you have a kit that we're going to talk about, this cleanup kit.
Yeah.
How do you get one of those?
Well, we can provide them through Superior Points.
All right.
And you can call us up and ask for a cleanup kit, especially now when the snow is going to be melting.
Right.
You might see a little bit more needles on the ground just with the snow cover. Once the snow is gone, we do this spring up to clean up all the time in our city, which is great. But if you do find needles, the cleanup kit is good for the needles.
So this kit is, I mean, it's very prominent here.
Yeah.
But is there something special in it, or?
It comes with a little sharps container.
Okay.
It also comes with some gloves, something for you to wipe your hands with after, a little bit of instructions, also a little pair of pliers or tweezers so that you could pick the needle up if you feel uncomfortable picking it up with your hands. But like I had said earlier, it's very easy to pick it up right by the plunger end and very safe.
Right. So if you're out doing some cleaning up under the spring up to clean up, I hope I say that right because I always get them mixed up.
I think that's right.
But anyway, that's which will be happening now.
Yes.
Pretty well. So this is something you could just easy carry along with you to clean up your street, we'll say.
Yeah, absolutely.
As an older adult.
Yeah. Like I said, you can have one of these cleanup kits or even just an empty water bottle will do the trick as well.
And it's important that we continue to keep ourselves educated, Rhonda, in what's going on in the community. Yeah. And you've identified different ways that can occur.
Yeah.
Is there something that you feel that we need more to know about in regards to the drug situation?
I think, like we had chatted earlier, I think that it's just really important for us to not demonize people who are using substances. That, you know, alcohol is a substance too, and sometimes
That's right.
we kind of sort of swish over that, you know. But substances are going to be used, and people who use substances aren't bad people. They may be making choices that aren't great for them right now, but like I said, it's usually a trauma response.
Right.
And I just really do believe in kindness and connection, and that helps people a little more than, you know, stigmatizing.
And as an older adult, we have to be proud of the fact that we have organizations such as the Health Unit, but there's other organizations in our community that are really working to assist individuals that are taking drugs.
Absolutely. There's lots of great organizations, and we like to partner with a lot of them. Some of the great ones are PACE, Shelter House, the Care Bus that's out right now.
Right.
That's really helping a lot of people.
Right.
Connecting them to services, having warm, kind, smiling faces, getting something to eat, providing with some extra clothes, anything that they might need.
Right. Thank you for this. This has been a very good education for the older adults that watch the program. I'm sure that we have provided them a lot of education on whether it's the needles or fentanyl or naloxone, etc. So really appreciate that. And as we're ending our program, the most important right now is to get yourself fit so that you can get out and walk and pick up the needles if you have them around your community and in your area. So stay tuned, because Linda DePiro will be up very shortly, and we'll be talking about her one exercise moment.
Hi, I'm Linda DePiro, and today I'm going to show you an effective exercise technique to free your lower back. Basically, wake up the fascia tissue in the lower back area so that it might reduce a little bit of pain or discomfort or tightness, encourage blood flow. We're going to use our fists to protrude those knuckles, and we're going to start. Sorry, I have to turn my back to you so that you can see that I'm going to rub right that lumbar spine. The lumbar spine is the tightest part of your spine. So we want to really work through this area vigorously, and then up and down through the side. All right, and then dig kind of in through those SI joints. Going back to your fists and digging across. I call this the little knuckle pelvic dance here. The pelvis goes one side, the knuckles go to the other side as we move quite rigorously. And keep this going. I just have to do this in short bouts. Now, sponging, you're gonna take your hand and sponge through the cervical area, just like you're squeezing a sponge. So keep squeezing the sponge. This knuckle is gonna go back to the lower back as we flex forward and stand, or you can hinge forward and stand. Keep rubbing that back and sponging. Forward, let's do that little side flexion, right? Side flexion as you squeeze, and adding rotation as you come across. I'm going to change hands. So this hand is going to do the sponging at the cervical, while this hand does the knuckling. Once again, let's just do that flexion forward and extension as well, adding that little bit of extension. And then we can do our side flexion and our rotation. Try this first thing in the morning. It's an easy, quick thing to help motivize and energize you to take on the day. See you later.